Yeah.
Excellent.
Welcome to the future, everybody. The future is now. We've only got now to see what we can make of it. However, I said the future. That's wrong. There are at least three futures. We're going to work with three futures for now, each represented by one of these wavy lines. And the important thing about these wavy lines is that each one of them implies a different underlying system. So this isn't one of those sigmoid displacement things, it's different. But the key thing is the vertical dimension, which we've called for brevity viability, you know, whether we can stay alive. Life was one of the topics of our presentations earlier. And we have a horizon 1, which has one kind of pattern. Not surprising, I made it kind of square. We have a vision, particularly in this community, of a very different kind of pattern. It's not maybe clear, maybe we've only got parts of it, but you can't get to the spirals by adding bits to the square. It's completely different. So to get from here to there, chaos, turmoil, dilemmas, turbulence, but hopefully innovation of the right kind. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at this, stealing Stockholm Resilience Institute and Johan Rockstrom's recent material about the inflection point. That according to this view, we're pretty much close to an inflection point, which is only about 3 years away, with the prodigious proposition that we're now on an accelerating Anthropocene exponential growth, and somehow we've got to flip that and create a reverse exponential growth to rapidly get to, as Terry Ahern was putting it, back as close as we can to one planet. And you can relate the two frameworks a bit like this, just as a hypothesis, that the crossover point between the square world dominating to the spiral world beginning to dominate is somewhere around about that inflection point. Bang! That's where we are, guys. So the reason the red curve dips is that I think we're all frustrated by either ineffective action or no action, or not enough effective action. And if that continues, then we're on a declining trajectory. That's, if you like, the doom scenario. We're aspiring to a view of the distant mountains where things are much better. And if we don't have that shared vision, and this doesn't fit in the conventional reductionist science lexicon, if we don't have a vision and a purpose, how are we going to guide decisions about what we're actually doing and what we privilege and what we don't privilege? So you could see the Sustainable Development Goals are at least a stepping stone of one kind towards beginning to give us some criteria. And in the middle here is the need for the transformative innovation, which is symbolized by the blue arrow with two little wiggly bits at the top. I'll explain those. So here's the old pattern dominant, here's the new pattern superseding, here's the new ideas and innovations. And one of the things that happens to really interesting, good, and potentially helpful innovations is that Horizon 1 mentality captures them and uses them to prop up the existing system. We call that H2 minus. What we want to encourage is somehow that we get H2 plus, that innovations which are vulnerable to capture are brought into an arena where they can actually flourish in the direction of the vision. That's difficult because a lot of the power and resources are vested with the Horizon 1. Now, the question that Jon put up about knowledge production, I want to make it clear that in this role, I and my little team are facilitators. We're not professors of science or transformation or anything. So these questions are designed to enable conversations to take place, not to get a PhD thesis. Okay, just want to make that clear as a very, 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 very recent academic, believe it or not, at my age. So you've no need to go into these questions in detail. You probably scan reading some of them because you will get them on the wall, on your table, on your facilitator's lips, and brought to your attention at the appropriate time. So how are we going to organize what comes next? Well, this is where Jon approached me and said, look, I'd like to do a mass facilitation exercise on 3 horizons with about 350 people. Oh yes, I said. I did do 1.5 hours once with about 100, and it sort of worked, but okay, so we had to design a way we could pull that off so that there's some chance that also we want to get a coherent, as coherent as possible, a sense-making of what you as an amazing community with terrific ideas and experience see about this transition from Horizon 1 to Horizon 3 and the transformative innovation zone, but in specific reference to this idea that's been privileged of knowledge production. So in Horizon 1, we're producing knowledge in a way where it somehow doesn't get harnessed in the way that we would like. In Horizon 3, hey, that's working. How? Well, get some visions. And then, oh, there's a gap. How do we get there? That's Horizon 2, okay? So 10 parallel groups, which you've heard Johan say, the room number's on your badge. You'll each go through the same process. So I would appeal to you to honor the process. The facilitators are briefed to try and steer you through it so we get consistent outputs. But they're also given tactical permission that, as all of us know, group dynamics is weird, and so they need some tactical leeway. But the end product of your breakout group will be a visual map of some of your most key ideas about this transformation from the way we produce knowledge now to the new way. So each group will have a facilitator. It's a bit of a rush, so some of you, I'm sure, will be up for helping the facilitator get the room organized and get things together. So if they ask you, please help. We're going to use, in these breakout groups, Post-it notes. Oh dear. The problem with Post-it notes is that they seem to bring over us an emotional surge of blizzarding thousands of Post-it notes. That's great, and it has a role to play, but what we're after here is more a kind of distillation of your very best thought. And so you may initially, if you're in a blizzard mood, find the process you're asked to do a little bit constraining. But I happen to live about less than 1/4 mile from the smallest single malt whiskey distillery in Scotland. And believe me, small can be beautiful and extremely tasty. So what we'd like is your best single malt, okay? And then if we gather all that together, what an extraordinary kind of pub we'll have. And also, we're going to honor your post-it notes, because although those will get, as it were, distilled into the single malt of your mural, we also would like to retain those post-it notes as a kind of underground record of the variety that you've generated, because hopefully Jon and his team will create some kind of joint production that all of us have made that in the new paradigm, in the Worley paradigm, should be published with great energy and investment. In the square paradigm, we hope to get it in somewhere. So take the lead from your facilitator. They know who they are. You'll find out who they are when you get to the room. Try and be expeditious in getting into the rooms. And good luck with your 3 futures.